Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Icarus and today can be considered like a bonus sex ed video because of course I was on Reddit this morning and I did not want to start didn't want to start writing, so I was avoiding writing. I was actually trying to look up some stuff about smash words and I got distracted by doom scrolling because of course I did. Some people doom scroll on Twitter, some people doom scroll on Reddit, and I'm one of the latter. But while I was doom scrolling, I came across a very strange post on R Asexual, and it's pissed me off enough that I can't wait until Friday to talk about it. So consider this a bonus episode, and I'm going to read it, and I'm going to read through the comment chain that I had, but I'm not going to tell y'all names. And I am probably not going to post this to Reddit until my comment chain gets buried by my extreme amount of posting because I am apparently terminally online. um, so I want to start with their post, and I'm going to try and correct for any spelling or grammatical errors as I go. But we all know I'm a shit reader, so I'm doing my best. I would like to start this off by saying I am in no way like the best human being, so if you've seen me in other places, separate me from that. Every time I talk about wanting to have a romantic, sexless relationship, I get hit with, but men have needs, then several different versions of how I'm going to have to be okay with an open relationship because no man would accept me wanting to not have sex. But like, have we not as a society come to the conclusion that if a man feels hunger and expects a woman to make him food instead of him making it himself, that he's an asshole? Like, we have got to the point that if a man were to treat a woman that way, he would be seen as a red flag and toxic. And hunger is an actual life or death need, while sex is purely a want. Why are we still stuck on normalizing men having women satisfy their wants? Like, you can satisfy your own need for pleasure by yourself. You don't need me to do it. And it's not like I'm saying that they have to become priest level, pure, and restrained. I just don't want to have sex with them. Masturbate all you want, my guy, but don't expect me to satisfy your want for pleasure. Needless to say, I am single and will be single for the foreseeable future because I don't think I have to go against my sexuality just to please someone else and hope that they stay with me. So that was the post. I have apparently not isolated my comment. There we go. I found it. So about 5 a.m. I saw this and I made a reply. Instead of trying to paraphrase, I'm going to read directly from it so that you get exactly what came out of my mouth. Or my fingers, I guess. If you're looking to date an allosexual and not have sex at all, then some of what is being said is true. Mind you, it's not how they're saying it, just the gist of what's being said. Allosexual people experience sexual attraction, and in many, I would even say most cases, sexually intimate contact is a need they have in order to feel wanted and satisfied in a sexual relationship. I meant to put in a romantic relationship, but that's what I wrote. I'm going to keep going. This is not an universal rule. There are exceptions, but generally this is the case, and it has nothing to do with gender. There is a reason marriages break apart over bedroom stuff. A lot of people go into marriage without fully understanding their own libidos and needs. And sometimes those needs change over time. So yes, whoever is telling you this is saying it in an incredibly sexist, toxic way, but there is a kernel of truth. Fortunately, with the internet, dating apps, queer support groups, etc., if you decide to pursue a relationship in the future, you'll have a slightly easier time sorting through the chaff to find someone whose libido, need for sexual intimacy, views on monogamy/polyamory, etc., match your own. I felt like that was a reasonable response because our asexual is full of a lot of young people who kind of fall into the asexual, gold star asexual, whatever you want to call it, where they're younger, they don't experience sexual attraction, they've never been interested in sex. A lot of times this coincides with sexual repulsion and a lack of libido entirely, so they don't want or need to masturbate. Though there are some variances, just like with anything else. Some people consider themselves the pure asexual if they just haven't had any sexual contact, etc., etc. So, this is something that I have seen a lot, and I am trying to help people try and look past the potential repulsion or disinterest in sex and understand that allosexual people are not gross for having these needs. It's just something that society has kind of ingrained in us, that sort of thing. So, they did reply a couple of hours later. I'm big on if your relationship is based on anything on the bedroom, you shouldn't have a relationship. Good sex doesn't equal good relationship, and bad sex doesn't equal bad partner. Needing to have sex to feel loved and want it slash need it is a huge red flag and sign of insecurity. I can show those things. I can show those things in 100,000 different ways. I said sexless, not touchless. I'm a romantic, monogamous ace, and that won't change. The society is so focused on sex that it ignores all other aspects of a relationship. I'm not looking for an allo, but when everyone who ever met you in your life is allo, you tend not to have a choice. I'm just going to read my response and then I will dissect what I said and what she said. And I know it's a she. I looked into her profile. No, it's not. Allosexual people fundamentally have a different relationship with sexual intimacy than anyone on the ace spectrum. It doesn't matter if you're sex favorable, neutral, or adverse. You do not have the same understanding of how and why sexual intimacy can be so important to an allosexual person. I am genuinely concerned because I decided to flip through your history to see how old you were. A lot of your thinking aligns with how I see very young people view sex, and I try to speak differently to young people versus people my age. I did not, nor would I ever say that relationships can be boiled down to something as simple as good sex means a good partner and bad sex means a bad partner. What I do say, and I will always say, is that the world demonizes sex and sexual exploration in a way that makes it incredibly hard to understand your body as you enter the age where most conventional marriages occur. People are not bad for having a need for sexual intimacy in whatever form it takes. They can be bad if they demand it from someone who clearly cannot meet their needs. People are not bad for not needing sexual intimacy to feel fulfilled. They can become bad when they presuppose that their normal is the normal and decide to punish people who are not wired the same way. I also did not say you were touchless, but there is a spectrum of sexual intimacy just like any other thing in the history of the human race. There is no black and white, just grayscale. And you will probably find someone who meshes with your own comfort levels. Allosexual people whose love languages include sexual intimacy are not inherently bad people, and your vitriol towards that, and not the fact that some people are still spewing sexist bullshit without a speck of introspection, kinda sorta really bothers me. All of this is coming from a queer ace person whose feelings emotionally, physically, and mentally towards sex has changed a lot as I started to grow up, step away from the culture I was immersed in as a kid, and began to study sex education and allosexual and asexual perspectives towards sex. It's easy to demonize sex because it's everywhere, even subliminally, and it feels like it's being shoved down our throats. But you're not doing anyone any favors if you refuse to acknowledge that sexual intimacy can in fact be a need and not just a want for a fulfilling relationship. Okay, so I feel like my response pretty well covered it. But at this point, I had gone through their profile a little bit. I've noticed they've only made posts and are asexual. Okay, cool, that's fine. And I read some of their posts. There was some, not all, because that becomes important later. So the post that I really focused on was the fact that they were talking about being in a intro to clinical psychology class, and I just realized there's a bunch of snails on one of the walls of the tank, so that's interesting. So anyway, so they are an intro to clinical psychology student, or at least they were last semester. They were talking about writing a paper about a marriage that was falling apart sexually. And that stuff isn't important. What was important to me is the fact that she wants to be a marriage slash family therapist in the future. So that confirmed a couple of things for me. The first is that she is indeed young, because after talking to Breyer, who did go through the psychology half of college, even though they are not like a clinical therapist or anything, and we talked about how intro to clinical psych is usually like a sophomore junior level class, I also looked into how long it usually takes to become a clinical psychologist slash therapist. It usually is like 7 to 8 years, kind of like a regular MD doctor, but residency is a lot shorter because you require a year as opposed to all of that shit. I'm not going to get into it. I was pre med for a while. That's all you need to know. And so, very interesting stuff. I ended up taking out the I'm concerned because you are a psych major and you want to be a therapist and you're having these viewpoints, because I felt like that was too mean. And I've been told in the past I come across as mean. So I was trying to soften that blow a bit. I didn't succeed apparently because the next response is insane. But I do stand by what I said, that sexual intimacy is something that many allosexual people require. There is a varying amount, but in the ace community, this varying amount can include something like hugs, holding hands, that sort of thing. So when I'm speaking about sexual intimacy in an asexual context, I am including what other people include, which is like any form of physical affection. And Charlie found the algae wafers, so I'm pleased I tossed them in. Anyway, I am very easily distracted, but so I do stand by what I said, that the way that she is viewing sexual intimacy and the fact that there are allosexual people that need that, and there are some asexual people that need that too. When I say that asexual people and allosexual people have a fundamental different understanding of sexual intimacy, it's still on a spectrum, just like anything else. There are some asexual people that, if they were to enter a sexual relationship, they would want to feel desired, even if they're not necessarily the ones that are instigating it. But they are indulging in it for their partner for whatever reason. That's what we talked about last week, consent, how I don't agree with enthusiastic consent, that sort of thing. At least it falls apart on an asexual level, but that's last week's video. But there are people that choose to indulge their partners because they are in an allosexual relationship and they're not sex adverse, they enjoy the act. They can also experience a desire to want to be seen as sexually attractive to their partners. And I would argue on some level, most everyone wants to be seen as physically attractive if they're in a romantic relationship by their partner or partners. I know I definitely have that insecurity. But we'll go to her final reply. Listen, you can disagree, but I'm right. If you base your relationship off of sex, you should not be in a relationship. You can want sex and you can say it's important to you, but people need to stop confusing sex with a need. And they need to start looking at people as if they are people and not things to satisfy their wants. I am not demonizing sex, nor am I demonizing people who say it's important. The problem is you treat someone like shit for not giving it because you translate that as them not needing you or wanting you. That is a red flag and a sign of insecurity. I am demonizing the people who say that they need it or base their entire relationship / the way they view somebody off of it. I am demonizing people, not sex. There is a difference. The fact that I don't experience lust is why I can see this. There is no reason why my mom should have stayed with my father. There is no reason that my sister should think a man who beats... There is no reason why my mom should have stayed with my father. There is no reason that my sister should think a man who beats the fuck out of her is the right one because he's good in the bedroom. There is no reason that my friends should deal with bad men because the sex is good. There is no reason that people should leave a relationship because the sex is bad when the person that they're with treats them like the world belongs to them. My age has nothing to do with it, and I am not a young person. I'm just not fooled by the people who try to convince the world that sex is a need, because it's not. It is a want. There's 1,000 ways to satisfy a want other than spreading my goddamn legs. Let's leave it at that. I did not leave it at that. No. What I did is I finished reading her other posts, the 4 that she did, and the very first one actually mentioned the fact that she is Catholic. because she was making a joke how asexuality is the closest sexual orientation to God or whatever. And then she was like, no priest jokes, please. I am Catholic. And I'm like, that explains a lot. If you're not familiar, Briar is a former Catholic, so whilst I am of the Protestant denomination formally, I am very familiar with how Catholic guilt works, especially in regards to sexual shit. Also, the fact that she info dumped her family trauma on me is concerning. I didn't ask for that. Anyway, I will read my reply, and then we'll actually dissect what she said. You're not right, and that is the problem. I cut out some of what I wrote initially when I said I went through your history. You want to become a family or marriage therapist, and you were recently in an intro to clinical psychology course. That is the part I find concerning, but I also cut it out to not seem too mean. Unless you're an untraditional student, you are fairly young. You're also Catholic, and there's a lot we could unpack about how Christianity in general treats sex. You have a strong aversion to sexual men, and with your family's traumatic history, your sexual orientation, and your upbringing, that's understandable. I am not discounting the trauma that has happened to you or people that you are close to, but that does not change the fact that there are people who do have sexual intimacy needs, and by shooting any and everyone down who in good faith says that they need to feel sexually desirable by their partner, you are only hurting said people. But I too am leaving it here because we are clearly having two different conversations. You are speaking to me like I'm not a fellow asexual individual, and you are currently very set in your ways. Again, given your history, especially with Catholicism, I am not surprised. Oh, I got 2 upvotes. That's nice. Anyway, so some of the issues I have with her thing, besides what I wrote, is the fact that she's like, I don't experience lust, therefore I know better than other people. And that's the part where I'm like, you're not treating me like a fellow asexual person, because I too do not experience lust, at least not in a traditional way. Other things that I have issues is the fact that she's simplifying so much to people either get into a relationship for sex and only sex, or they do not. There's also the very obvious problem of someone who breaks a marriage or a relationship because they're not sexually compatible with their partner. That is actually a huge problem, and something I had touched upon about the idea that people do not understand their own sexual needs until they finally are sexually active, and then they may find that their libidos or their preference for types of sex are different from their partners, and they're just not compatible. In an allosexual relationship, that can actually be very traumatizing on both parts because of the everything that is around sex by Western culture. Clearly, this was the end of the conversation with us, and that I'm totally fine with because fucking hell, she starts bringing in anecdotal trauma, and I'm not here for that. I am here to talk about how you are personally choosing to demonize people who do see sex as important. I am also extremely curious about how she feels about relationships in general, because she says she's a romantic, monogamous person, but why would you choose to be in a relationship unless it's something you want? Like, you want to be with someone, you want to be attached to them, you want someone with you to do whatever, financial security, all that sort of stuff. You want to be in a relationship. Technically, it's not a need, it's a want, but for a lot of people, not having some sort of intimate relationship with someone else, be it platonic or romantic, can actually be very devastating because humans are naturally very social creatures, so we desire to have that sort of relationship with people. Again, be it romantic or platonic or anywhere in between. She is a young person, unless she is an untraditional student, and I'm going to just... But then, I dug a little bit more. Also, someone, reported my comment, and, luckily, while Maud is dumb enough to not see the actual flaws in her logic, they also did not delete my comments. So, a half win. I say that. So then I decided, because sometimes I get curious, I want to know if they're just not replying to my last statement because they're done with me, or if it's because they have just gone offline. That's very common. So I was curious, and I ended up looking into some of their previous comments that were very recent, as in, like, before my post, but. And I don't know what the context is entirely. I pulled up some of the stuff, but I haven't actually clicked on the post, which is something about acephobia and aphobia. And I don't want to click on it because it looks like it has several comments, and I don't want to lose this particular thread. So someone says, it's one thing to say I would never date someone with a penis, but if I meet a woman, find her attractive, she has the genital configuration I'm into, and then when I find out she's trans, I'm no longer interested in her, that's 100% transphobic. Because it's purely based on not seeing trans women as real women. The guy who came up with the super straight thing even explained why he would never date a trans woman. Oh, no, that's not a real woman to me. I want a real woman. Here's the video. There's a video link. Nobody has to date anybody they don't want to, but loudly declaring, I would never date a trans person has the same energy as I would never date a black person. It is in no way a real sexuality. Instead, it's just a way to dress transphobia up in the language of diversity so they can claim to be persecuted when they're called out. The person that I have been talking about replies, let's say you like a food dish. It's amazing and tastes fine, but then you find out the cook put spit and hair all up in it. You'll no longer be able to stomach it, and you wouldn't continue to eat it. Doesn't mean you hate the chef or wish harm on them. You just can't eat their food anymore, and that's valid. I can't date someone who is the same sex as me. I hope they find love and understanding, but I can't do it. My brain doesn't work that way. It's not the same as being transphobic. It's being realistic with myself. The person that made the initial very good response replies, oh, I didn't realize you were one of those super strict transphobes. Sorry I wasted my time trying to explain it to you. Good luck with your gross transphobic rationalizations as society leaves you behind. They say, it's not transphobia, but if it helps you, then okay. I'm not super straight considering I'm asexual and can only feel romantic feelings, and only when certain criteria are met, but I just can't feel feelings for people that have the same sex as me. But just because someone is cis doesn't mean they are a guaranteed spot in my romantic interest. It's not wrong for a male to want a female or a female to want a male. But when you say it like that, people want to demonize you, and I understand that. I wish that you would understand me, though, or at least agree to disagree instead of calling me names, since I'm not calling you names. And I just... closing my laptop, because I don't... Okay, I actually kind of want to see what the context of this is, of the greater post. Let's see. With the recent topic of acephobia and aphobia, this had to be said. Why are they mad at aces? We do nothing. Like, we literally do no one. Another one of those. Never mind. The context isn't important. It just makes me mad. So, basically, what we have here is an asexual Catholic woman who is clearly young, has very strong beliefs about men, who finds herself romantically attracted to men, but not sexually attracted to men. She is asexual. Let's remember that. She's clearly sex adverse. She wants to be a marriage counselor or a family therapist. She is currently in school for that. And she's transphobic. Breyer put this very well in that, why does she care about the genital configuration if she's not even interested in that? And really, I can't sum it up better than that. So, I'm sorry to the mods of our asexual. I'm probably not going to post this to Reddit for quite a while because, like I said, I said it at some point. I don't want this to turn into a witch hunt or to anything like that. But we have a clear indication that this person's head is not on straight. Just asexual people, when are we going to get our shit together? I remember 2013, people were always so careful to talk about sexuality. And there was some demonizing of allosexual people, but I hesitate to say it was justified, but at the time, asexuality was struggling to even be heard. So that's my soapbox for today. Um, I am including at the end of this a little bit of footage of me cleaning Dandelion's cage. You've seen him moving around in the background today because I just got finished and he had to make sure everything was okay and start moving things around. He was very upset with me because he was in his pineapple and I had to kind of low key dump him out. But like I said, that's it for me today. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Stay hydrated. My water is over there, so I'm going to go start editing and get it. And I will talk to y'all tomorrow. Bye.